Hey there, today we're going to build a real estate marketplace frontend using a variety of technologies. We'll be using Next.js 14, MapBox, Shadcn UI, and Tailwind CSS. We will only be building the frontend for this project so there won't be any functionality. Instead, we'll focus on building modern UIs with industry best practices. Let's hop into a demo to see what we're going to build. First off, we'll build the header component using Shadcn UI and Tailwind CSS. We will create a search component as well as the select components. We will also add light and dark mode theming to give the project a modern feel. Secondly, we will build a sidebar component that shows the available properties. We will use the Shadcn UI card component as well as the Shadcn UI button component. We will also learn how to position these elements using grid layout. Finally, we will add the map using MapBox. We will also learn how to place markers on top of the map to represent houses. The goal of this project is to learn how to design modern UIs in Next.js. If you enjoyed the tutorial, please like and subscribe to the channel. With that, let's start building this real estate marketplace front end. I'm starting with a blank folder and a terminal to open in VS Code. Let's hop into Shadcn UI documentation to instantiate the project. Now that we're in the Shadcn UI documentation, let's go to Next.js and follow these instructions. I'm going to copy and paste that into here, then run it. And we're just going to follow the default instructions for this. Now let's cd into our folder and continue the instructions. And we're going to choose New York theming for this, and also neutral. And just follow that to yes. Now let's add the Shadcn UI components. So scroll down here and copy this. And we're going to remove button and hit enter. And then select A for all components. And this will take a minute. Now that that's done, let's see if we can run our project. It's running on port 3000, so I'm going to see if it's running there. Cool, so it looks like it's working. Now let's see if we can render one of our Shadcn UI components. So I'm going to delete all this and try to render a Shadcn UI button component. And sweet, that's also working. Cool, now let's jump in and build the header component. So let's make a new file in components called header.tsx. Now let's render it in the page component. And let's check if that's showing up. Cool, so that's working. Now let's style the header component with flex. So I'm going to go in here with class name. And we also want the two sections of the header to be separated, so justify between. And we also want the items to be centered. And a min height of 12. And we also want the width to span the full distance, and the X to have a padding of 6. Now we'll do the first section of the header component, and we're also going to use flex for this. So we want to separate it with gap 6, and then use flex, and then center the items. And let's put in the title of the application, and we'll call it Realty Nest. And we'll style this, make the text bigger, and also give the semi-bold font. It looks like the text didn't get bigger. Oh, we're missing a T, so we'll put that in. Let's add the search component, and we're going to use the input component from Shadcn UI, and then put in some placeholder text for the search. And we're also going to style this with a width of 200. Cool, so that's showing up. Now we can add the drop-down component. And this is going to be the select component from Shadcn UI. And we need a select trigger for it. And then a select value. And this will be the placeholder text. And we can call it by. And now we can do the select content, which is going to be what's in the drop-down. And these will be select items. And the first one's going to be buy, and the second one's going to be rent, and then the third is going to be sold. And that's sell, but we can change it to sold. And let's check if it's showing up. And cool, it looks like it's working. So yeah, we can see our drop down right there. And cool, we're going to copy this now and add another select component. And this one's going to be bedrooms, so we can edit the placeholder text to bedroom. And we can edit these to be 1 bedroom. And then 2 bedroom. And then finally 3 bedroom. And let's copy this one more time. And this is going to be type for property. So we can call it home type. And the first one is going to be a house. And the second one could be an apartment, actually a condo. And we don't need the third one. Cool, so we got the first part of the header showing up. Now we can work on adding light and dark mode. So let's jump into the Shadcn UI documentation. And we're going to go to the Next.js theming and just follow these instructions. So first we're going to install this package, Next Themes. So cd into my app and then install this. And now we're going to create this provider component. So we're going to jump into our components and create this one. And we're just going to call it theme provider.tsx and paste that in. And now we got to wrap our layout with it. So we'll just follow these instructions. So I'm going to paste that in here. Fix these brackets. And then import the component. And then delete this little thing. Cool, so now we got to add the toggle, which is this component right here. And yeah, you can see how it works right there. So let's copy and paste this part. And just paste it in here in a new section. So this is going to be the second part of the header. And we got to fix all these imports, so just make sure those are imported from Shadcn UI. And then import these icons. And then we also have to add this use theme hook, so we can copy and paste it from here. and this will allow us to set the theme. So yeah, make sure that's imported from Next themes. And then also we have to make this a client component. So write use client at the top. And cool, it should be working now. Sweet, yep, there's light and dark mode. Now let's work on making the properties display. So let's jump back into VS Code. And first we're going to do the layout to position where the properties are going to be. So the overall layout is going to be flex, and then we're going to have a column flex. And we want it to be the height screen and the width to be full. And this is going to be the section below the nav bar. So we also want this to be a class flex and the height to be full. And here, this is where the map's going to be displayed. So we want this section to grow and also the height to be full. And then finally, this is where our property section is going to be. So let's add a class name. Then for now, we're just going to put the BG, the background as blue to see how it's showing up. And we want a min width of 500 here. And let's jump in to see if it's working. So here's where we're going to display the properties in the blue section. And now we can work on building that properties display. So first I'm going to paste in some photos, and I'll show you where you can get them in a little bit. But for now I'm just going to paste them in and use them in my component. So I'll paste them into the public folder. You'll also put them there. And I'll build this properties display component. And call it properties display TSX. And now we need information for all the cards we're going to render. So I'm going to paste in a list of properties that you can also create too. So this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have image, price, house stats, and then address. And the image is just going to be the images I pasted in. And I'll show you in a second how to get those from unsplash.com. So I just got to fix these imports. And here I'm pasting the imports to fix them. I'm going to import them from @public. And cool, so it looks like those imported correctly. And now I'm going to unsplash.com to show you how to get them. So just search houses here, and then you can download these for free and add them to your project. And you can choose whatever houses you want. So yeah. So now we're going to actually work on the house card component, which is how the house is going to be displayed. So we're going to make a new component right now called housecard.tsx. So let's do that now. And here it's going to make another component. And this component is going to take props. So let's define an interface for what the props are going to look like. And the first prop is going to be an image. And it's going to be a type static image data. I spelled static wrong. So static image data. And that's from next image. And the next is going to be a price, which is going to be a string. Then the house stats, and then an address. I'll fix that. Also a string. So let's pass these into house card. And cool, so those are passed in. And we're going to use the card component from Shadcn UI. So let's add that in. And yeah, we're going to display our information through this. So first we're going to have the picture of the house. So let's add that in from next image. And we have to add alt text here, so we're just going to call it house. And then the source is going to be image. And we also have to add a class name. And let's make sure that imported correctly from next image. Cool, so that's working. And now we're gonna add the card information. So we're gonna call this card header. And this is also from Shadcn UI. And our card title is gonna be the price of the house. And another component from Shadcn UI. And then the card description is gonna be house stats. And then another card description is gonna be the address. And finally, we're gonna add in a button. And this is all going to be from Shadcn UI, so let's position it first to the right of the card. So let's justify n, and then we're going to give some padding. And let's add this button in from Shadcn UI. And we want it to be small, so let's add that in. And then it's going to say view details. So there we have the house card component done. So let's jump back into our properties display component, and we can render this house card component. So we're going to lay it out in a grid fashion, so let's do that first. So class name grid, we're going to have 2 columns, so grid calls 2. And we want the min width to be 500 pixels. And then the gap to be 1 between each card. And then we want overflow auto to make it scrollable. And now we're going to loop through our house list and then render the card components. So let's fix these syntax errors. And I think I have an extra bracket. Cool, okay. Okay, that's working. So let's put in our house card component. And then we have to pass in the props for the house card component. So we need the image from the house. Then we also need the price. And house stats. And finally the house address. Cool, so that fixed the errors. And now let's try to render this in our page. So we're going to replace this line with our properties display. And let's see if that worked. Cool, so it's showing up over the whole page, but that can be fixed. So let's jump back into VS Code and let's change this min width to just width, 500 pixels in the properties display. And sweet, so that's working now. And here we can see our house cards are scrollable from the overflow auto, and then we also have light and dark mode. So we're mostly done. We just need to add in the map now. So to add in the map, we're gonna go to mapbox.com and click on this. So I already have an account, so I'm not gonna sign in, but once you sign up for free, you're gonna have an access token that you can use, and we can use the React Map GL library to render it. So we're gonna follow their instructions here. So let's copy and paste that into our terminal and install the necessary packages. Cool, so that worked. Now we're gonna create a .env local file to store a MapBox token. So we just call it .env.local. And then here you can say next public MapBox token. And then put your token here from MapBox. So I'm not going to show mine, but just paste yours in here. So yeah, your token here. And now let's display a map with React Map GL. So let's read in the token first from process env. And this is also going to be a use client component because it can't render on the server. It has to render in the browser. And then we need to import this line of code so our map displays properly. So MapBox GL dis MapBox GL CSS. And let's also import the map and the marker from React Map GL. And now we can actually display our map. So we're going to jump in here and use the map component from React Map GL. And let's put that in. And we also have to pass in some props for this. So first off, we need the MapBox token. So yeah, just use that. And secondly, we need to choose the latitude and longitude. So that prop's going to be called initial values. So let's put that in. And the latitude and longitude is going to be of San Francisco. So longitude is going to be -122.2. And the latitude is going to be 38.1. So I'll fix that. And then we also need to choose the zoom of how zoomed in the map is. And finally, we need to choose the style of the map. So map style, and you can paste this in MapBox styles, MapBox streets v11. Cool, so that map's showing up. Now we gotta theme the map properly, so let's go back into VS Code. And we're gonna use the use theme again, but this time we're just gonna read in the theme instead of setting the theme. So theme equals use theme, and import that. And then down here in map styles, we can do theme equals light. So theme equals light. And then question mark. And then we'll set it to this style. And then otherwise we'll set it to the dark style. And see if that's working. So cool, yeah, now in dark mode this shows up. And in light mode this one shows up. Let's jump back into VS Code though, because for our light theme we want a different map. So we can change the light one here to, instead of streets v11, we can call this light v10. And now this should be working. So cool, yeah, now we have our light and dark mode map set up. And finally we need to add the markers to represent houses. So let's do that. And we're going to read in a list of latitude and longitude points, so you can create that. Then inside the map component, we can add the markers in. So let's read through the list. So markers.map index, and fix these errors. And yeah, we're going to put in the marker. Got an extra bracket there. Cool, so now we just need to pass in the parameters. So this takes the latitude and longitude. So we're going to read in the marker.longitude, then also the marker latitude. And finally, display color can be red. And the anchor is to the bottom. So that should be working now. Cool, we got the marker showing up. And that's the end of the project. I hope you've enjoyed doing this and learned something new.